There's something most people spend their entire lives working for, and it's the very thing that keeps them from becoming wealthy. It's not a lack of intelligence. It's not bad luck. It's simply that they're working for money instead of making money work for them. And once you understand this difference, you'll see the financial world completely differently. Let me start with a simple observation. Most people wake up, go to work, put in their hours, collect a paycheck, pay their bills, and repeat. They do this for decades. They work hard, sometimes extremely hard, and yet many of them retire with very little to show for it. Now ask yourself this question. If working hard made people rich, wouldn't every dedicated employee be a millionaire by now? The truth is that effort alone doesn't create wealth. What creates wealth is understanding how money actually flows and learning to position yourself on the receiving end of that flow. Think about someone earning $70,000 a year. That sounds like a solid income, right? But let's walk through what really happens to that money. After federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, and Medicare, that $70,000 gets reduced to somewhere around $52,000 to $54,000 in actual take-home pay. That's about $4,300 per month hitting your bank account. Now you've got rent or a mortgage payment, let's say $1,500. Add car payments, insurance, gas, groceries, utilities, phone bills, internet, maybe student loan payments, credit card minimums, and a few subscriptions you forgot to cancel. By the time you add it all up, you're left with maybe $600 to $800 at the end of the month if you're lucky. And that's assuming nothing unexpected happens. No medical bills, no car repairs, no emergency expenses. This is the reality for millions of hardworking Americans. They earn what sounds like good money, but after everything's said and done, there's barely anything left to actually build wealth with. So what's the alternative? The alternative is understanding the difference between assets and liabilities. Now, this might sound like complicated financial jargon, but it's actually incredibly simple. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. That's really all there is to it. The problem is that most people are convinced they're buying assets when they're actually accumulating liabilities. They think their house is an asset, but if it's costing them a mortgage payment, property taxes, insurance, and maintenance every single month without generating any income, then it's actually taking money out of their pocket. That makes it a liability, not an asset. Their car, almost always a liability. It loses value immediately, costs money in insurance, gas, and repairs. Credit card debt, furniture payments, boat loans, all liabilities draining money away month after month. Now contrast that with what wealthy people focus on. If you buy a rental property for $300,000, put down $60,000 as a 20% down payment, and rent it out for $2,200 a month, let's see what happens. Your mortgage payment on the remaining $240,000 might be around $1,300 a month. Add property taxes, insurance, and maintenance, and you're looking at maybe $1,800 in total monthly expenses. That means you're generating $400 in positive cash flow every single month. That property is literally putting money into your pocket while you sleep. That's an asset. Over time, your tenants are paying down your mortgage, the property might appreciate in value, and you're collecting cash flow. That's how assets work. Or consider index fund investing. Let's say you invest $500 every single month into a broad market index fund. Historically, the stock market has returned around 8 to 10% annually over long periods, though of course there are no guarantees and returns vary significantly year to year. But if we use a conservative 8% average, after 10 years of consistent $500 monthly investments, you'd have contributed $60,000 of your own money. But your account would be worth around $91,000. The difference is growth from compounding returns. After 20 years, you'd have put in $120,000, but your account could be worth around $295,000. After 30 years, the numbers become even more dramatic. You're not working harder during this time. You're just letting your money work for you through the power of compound growth and market returns. The wealthy understand this principle deeply. They focus obsessively on acquiring things that generate income. rental properties, dividend-paying stocks, businesses, intellectual property, anything that creates cash flow without requiring their constant physical presence. Meanwhile, most people focus on getting a better job, a higher salary, a bigger title, and there's nothing inherently wrong with earning a good salary, but here's the trap. A salary alone will never make you wealthy because you're still trading your time for money. There's a ceiling to how much you can earn, and the moment you stop working, the money stops coming in. Let me put this in perspective. When you work for someone else, you're helping them build their asset. You're contributing your time, energy, and skills to grow their business, their wealth, their empire. In exchange, they give you a paycheck. That paycheck allows you to survive, maybe live comfortably, but it rarely allows you to build significant wealth because most of it gets consumed by living expenses and taxes. Employees are taxed first, before they even see their money. The government takes its cut right off the top of your paycheck. Then you try to live on what's left over. Business owners and investors, on the other hand, earn their money, spend what they need to operate, and grow, and then get taxed on what's left. It's a completely different structure that favors wealth building. This brings us to a concept that keeps millions of people stuck in what you might call a cycle of perpetual financial stress. People work hard at their jobs to earn money. They use that money to pay bills and buy things. But the things they buy often create more bills, which means they need to work even harder to keep up. So they look for promotions, raises, better jobs, anything to increase income. And when their income goes up, something interesting happens. Their expenses go up too. They move to a nicer apartment, buy a newer car, upgrade their lifestyle. This is why someone earning $40,000 a year often feels just as financially stressed as someone earning $90,000. The income increased, but so did the obligations. This cycle can continue for an entire career, even an entire lifetime, without ever leading to actual financial freedom. Why does this happen? Part of it is psychological. Most people are driven by two primary emotions when it comes to money: fear and desire. They fear not having enough, so they cling to the security of a steady paycheck. They desire a better lifestyle, so they spend their paycheck on things that make them feel successful. But neither emotion leads to wealth. Fear keeps them working for money, and desire keeps them spending it. They never stop long enough to learn how money actually works, how to make it multiply, how to build systems that generate income independently of their labor. Think about what happens when your salary stops. Maybe you get laid off, maybe you get sick, maybe you just decide you want to retire. If your only source of income is your job, then the money stops the moment you stop working. You're entirely dependent on someone else's willingness to keep paying you. That's not security, that's vulnerability disguised as stability. Real security comes from owning assets that produce income regardless of whether you show up to work or not. Now let's talk about financial education versus the kind of education most people receive. The traditional education system teaches you how to be a good employee. You learn to follow instructions, meet deadlines, pass tests, get grades, and eventually get a job. All of this prepares you to work for someone else, say. But almost nowhere in that system do they teach you how money actually works. They don't teach you about cash flow, about assets and liabilities, about the difference between working for money and having money work for you. They don't teach you about taxes, investing, or building wealth. You can graduate with honors from a prestigious university and still be completely financially illiterate. This is why so many highly educated people struggle financially. They're smart, capable, hardworking, but they've never learned the financial rules that wealthy people play by. They think wealth comes from a high salary, but wealthy people know it comes from ownership. They think risk means danger, but wealthy people know that the biggest risk is playing it safe and never learning to build assets. They think job security is the goal, but wealthy people know that financial independence is the real goal, and that comes from assets, not jobs. Consider the difference between being self-employed and owning a real business. If you're self-employed, you essentially own your job. You're still trading time for money, you've just cut out the middleman. A freelancer, a consultant, a solo lawyer or doctor who runs their own practice, they might earn good money, but they're still the engine. If they stop working, the income stops. But if you build a business that runs without you, one with systems, employees, processes that generate profit whether you're there or not, now you own an asset. That business produces income while you sleep, while you vacation, while you focus on building the next thing. That's the power of true ownership. The question isn't whether you should work hard. Of course you should. The question is, what are you working hard for? Are you working hard to earn a paycheck that disappears into bills and expenses? Or are you working hard to build assets that will generate income for years to come? Are you building someone else's dream or your own? Are you learning to make money, or are you learning to make money work for you? Here's the reality that most people never face. Expenses will always rise to meet income unless you consciously decide otherwise. When you get a raise, it's tempting to upgrade everything. Better apartment, nicer car, fancier dinners, but every upgrade comes with ongoing costs that lock you into needing that higher income just to maintain your lifestyle. This is why lifestyle inflation is so dangerous. It turns every raise into a new set of chains rather than an opportunity to invest and build wealth. Wealthy people think differently about money. When they receive income, their first thought is, how can I use this to acquire more assets? How can I make this money generate more money? They don't immediately think about what they can buy or consume. They think about what they can invest in, what income streams they can capture. This mindset shift from consumer to investor, from employee to owner, changes everything. None of this means that having a job is bad or that you should quit tomorrow and try to become an entrepreneur with no preparation. What it means is that you need to start thinking like an owner, even while you work as an employee. Use your salary strategically, live below your means, not at them, take the difference and invest it in assets. Learn about real estate, about stocks, about businesses. Educate yourself financially. Read books, take courses, study how money flows in the real world. Build your financial intelligence the same way you built your professional skills. The path to wealth isn't about working harder at your job, it's about working smarter with your money. It's about shifting from labor to leverage, from trading time for dollars to building systems that generate dollars without your time. It's about understanding that your job can be a tool to build wealth, but it can never be wealth itself. Wealth comes from assets, from ownership, from learning to see money not as something you chase, but as something you command. If you take one thing from this, let it be this. Stop working for money and start making money work for you. Learn the difference between assets and liabilities. Focus on building income streams that exist independently of your labor. Invest in your financial education with the same intensity you invested in your career education. Because at the end of the day, it's not how much you earn that determines your financial future. It's how much you keep, how much you invest, and how well you understand the game of money. And that game rewards those who learn its rules.